Welcome to Kevin Deal Photography, where I take you on my journey through photography. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 things that I want to see Canon do in 2024. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and if you like my style, I highly encourage you to check out my F11 Photography Podcast. It's a weekly podcast where we discuss all in-depth things photography related. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can check us out on both Apple and Spotify, but now back to today's episode. Welcome to today's episode. If you're not familiar with Kevin Deal Photography, we do gear reviews, tips, techniques, and tutorials, and sometimes we dive into film. If any of that sounds appealing to you, click the subscribe button below. So if you follow this channel and you followed this channel for over a year, you probably remember that I put this video out for 2023, and that was the 5 things that I wanted to see Canon do in 2023. Now it's 2024. And I think this is going to become a yearly tradition just because I think it's great for us to anticipate what Canon is going to do for those of us who are enthusiasts of the Canon product. And so looking back and evaluating what I looked at in 2023, they didn't really fulfill a lot of my wishes. So some of them you're going to hear again. And we're going to start with number 1, which is, as of right now, the widest prime L lens that Canon has is the 50mm 1.2, which is coincidentally, I think, the very first prime lens they ever introduced to the system, which turns 6 in 2024. That's right. The RF mount is now 6 years old. And 6 years into the RF mount, we do not have a L prime that is wider than 50mm. Now, I know that there are a lot of apologists and people out there making excuses like, well, Canon can just take their sweet time, but they are an optics company. That is what they do. And so to be here in 2024 and not be able to have a wide prime, like think about people like astrophotographers and even wedding photographers who want to take very shallow depth of field shots with a nice premium L lens, and they don't get to do that. So the number 1 thing I asked for last year is still the number 1 thing I ask for this year, and that is the RF 35mm 1.2 L USM prime lens. Now, it may be a 1.4, we don't know. And I know a lot of you are probably watching this and going, well, Kevin, Canon rumors said it's coming out in 2024. Well, I'm looking right now at something from Canon rumors saying that it was going to come out in 2022 and that Canon was actually going to unveil 3 wide-angle lenses in 2023. Well, it's now 2024 and that didn't happen. So let that be a lesson that rumors are just that. They are rumors, and they got that wrong. And to not have a 35mm upon launch of a lens system, in my opinion, is kind of inexcusable because to me, 35mm is the ultimate storytelling lens. I don't know why you wouldn't have it. I love using it for street photography. I love using it for environmental portraiture. I know wedding photographers love using the old EF 35 1.4. So why they would not serve this market, I don't know if getting from 1.4 to 1.2 has been a challenge for them. Maybe that is the issue. I don't know. But 6 years into the RF mount, I think there's no excuse to have a flagship 35mm. Yes, I do have a 28-70 f2, and yes, I do have the RF 35mm 1.8, which is a fantastic lens that punches above its weight class, but that lens has problems focusing on backlit subjects. It has problems focusing when it's dark outside, and there's a lot of chromatic aberration with it. It's a good lens, but it's not like an L quality lens. And so I think it's time Canon needs to go ahead and get this done. Number 2, the R5 Mark II. When I made this video in 2023, I said it was debatable as to whether or not it's time for a new R5 update. And even though I don't necessarily need the new features that an R5 would likely offer, I do think it's time for a new R5. And I made a video on the complaints that I had about the R5. Obviously, the overheating issues, the record time limits for video, it's absolutely in need of an update. Oh, and look, Canon rumor strikes again. They got yet another one wrong. They will never pass up an opportunity to get clicks. No, the R5 Mark II did not come out in 2023, but that didn't stop them from printing out an article to get you to click on it. For those of us R5 owners out there, such as myself, we love our R5s. However, I think Canon needs to make an R5 Mark II to attract people to the system. So if I were a prospective photographer looking for a nice camera system, and I was like, should I go Canon? Should I go Sony? Should I go Nikon? And I start comparing what's at that price point, the R5 is starting to drop off in terms of the features that it offers. So I think Canon, as a company that makes cameras and lenses and all that, needs to offer an updated version of the R5 to keep cameras at that price point selling. From a personal standpoint, I would like to see those new algorithms and tracking that I have in my R8 and even my R50 put into the R5, because I find that even my R50, which is like a $500-$600 camera, sticks to the eye better than my R5 does. So to me, that is telling me that the R5 is in need of an update, hopefully something with a stacked sensor, something with really good dynamic range, really good performance in low light. High megapixels is fine, but I don't think it needs to be a ton of megapixels. Like, I don't think we need a 70 megapixel camera. I actually wouldn't mind the same amount of megapixels that were in the R5, just with much better dynamic range and much better low light performance. Number 3, in my 2023 video, I asked Canon to make more innovative lenses like the 28-70, and in 2023, they delivered. They, out of nowhere, decided to release a 24-105 f2.8. Now, I have not used the 24-105 2.8, but when I do, I will make sure that I leave a review here for all of you. Looking at that lens, it's exciting. It has new features for videographers. It has an aperture ring in it for videographers, which is great. And then obviously, if you're shooting professional work and you just need to go from 24-105 and let in a lot of light, 2.8 will do that for you. So props to Canon for making the 24-105 2.8. In my opinion, they fulfilled one of my requests last year, which is that they were pushing the RF mount further. But I'm greedy. I want them to push the RF mount even further. I would love to see an f2 Trinity. So right now we have a 28-70 f2, but I've seen rumors that Canon is making a 70-150 f2. That would be welcome. And in all honesty, I would be fine with it just going to 135. If they made a 70-135 f2, to me, having 28 with the 28-70 and then 70-135 would be incredible. And then if they want to make some sort of a wide angle f2, it doesn't have to be a big long range, but something that goes maybe from like 16-28 and then make that an f2, you could have a holy trinity of f2 lenses, and that would be fantastic. That would be pushing the boundaries, and I think that would replace a lot of prime lenses for a lot of photographers. Number 4, third-party lenses for the Canon RF mount that are autofocus. Now, Canon is a private company, and they can do whatever they want, and of course, the consumer can vote with their wallet as to whether or not they want to purchase Canon or go with another brand. However, I do think it's a perfect time for Canon to allow third-party companies to get into the RF mount, and there's no bigger reason than the fact that Canon just simply can't develop lenses fast enough to meet the demands of their users. I believe that Canon is sorely lacking for long wildlife lenses. Yes, they have the 100-500 and they came out with the 200-800, but I still think that there are other lenses that they could make that are cheaper, especially like STM motor type lenses for the RF mount. And I think that companies like Tamron and Sigma already make those lenses for the EF mount, and they make them for Sony, and they just have unique lenses. So like there's a 35-150 f2 to f2.8 that's made out there by Tamron. It's an incredible lens. Sigma, like I said, they have these lenses that just kind of fit in between lenses that Canon makes. They don't have to make like carbon copy lenses like 50 millimeters and 85 millimeters. But I think the biggest area where Canon could have body sales go up is in inexpensive entry-level lenses. So I shoot on the Fuji X mount, and Sigma makes a contemporary line of lenses. These are excellent lenses, and they even have little weather sealing gaskets on them, and they're only like $200, $300, at most $400, and these lenses go to f1.4. Canon doesn't make any entry-level STM lenses for the regular RF, not even the RFS, but the RF mount, that are wider in aperture, brighter in aperture than f1.8. But a lot of those lenses are at f2.8. So like Canon makes a 16 millimeter f2.8, which I'm actually filming myself on right now. Sigma makes a 16 millimeter f1.4, and it's like $350. It's roughly the same price as the Canon 16 millimeter f2.8. Now, maybe Canon is afraid that that's going to kill the sales of the 16. However, the 16 1.4 is a much larger, longer lens than the Canon 16 2.8. So I don't think that it would really cut into sales that much. It's just for a different type of photographer or videographer. The fact that these lenses offer things like weather sealing that Canon STM lenses don't offer, I think makes them a more appealing lens for entry-level photographers to get a little bit more out of their cameras. Which leads me to number 5, and that is that on Canon's STM lenses, they don't offer weather sealing. And I think that is a huge missed opportunity. So when you take something like the 28 millimeter Pancake right here, it's the ultimate street photography lens, right? Well, it's not, because it's not weather sealed. So when I pair it with my R8, my R8's weather sealed, but my 28 millimeter f2.8 is not weather sealed. And if I want to go take this out on a rainy day and shoot some street photography, or it's just raining while I'm on my vacation and I want a small lens, a compact lens that has weather sealing, Canon does not offer one. And I think that that's a huge omission in their line. Yes, I know that the L lenses are the premium lenses and they have weather sealing, but back to Fuji. Fuji makes $300 lenses that have weather sealing, and it's not even their top of the line lenses. Fuji makes lenses that have a f2 maximum aperture. They have really great optical quality and they're weather sealed. Canon has lenses that have, f2, f2.8 maximum aperture. They have great quality, but they're not weather sealed. So I think that if there's one thing that Canon could possibly do to drive sales a little better, I think it's they should have some weather sealing capabilities inside their less expensive lenses. I think it would put them more on par with companies like Fuji when it comes to genres like street photography. And frankly, I think it's like one of those things that manufacturers do to remind you that you don't have their premium product. That's just kind of a dick move. It's like, come on, man, do you really need to remind me that I don't have a lot of money by limiting my shutter speed? And how much is a gasket anyway? Those little gaskets that you see on lenses, they might cost 2 or 3 cents. And so it's not exactly a huge expense for Canon to start putting these on their lenses. So anyway, that is my list of things that I think Canon should do in 2024. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree with my list? Tell me about that in the comments below. Do you have something that you would like to see Canon do in 2024? Also, tell me about that in the comments below. And if you like this channel, I humbly ask you to click the subscribe button below. I do appreciate your support. And if you like my opinions and you want to hear my more uncensored opinions that are not YouTube safe, go check out my F11 photography podcast, which can be found on all major platforms, including Apple and Spotify. And for all of you watching, I wish you a happy and healthy new year. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.